Hello everybody, and welcome to the November 2021 update of the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour. This month it'll just be me, and I'm going to take you through the new chapter that I have just fully updated, which is the new Fantasyland. Last month I did the original Fantasyland, which is from opening year up till 1982. And this chapter of Fantasyland covers the 1983 remodel version of Fantasyland up to the present. And I'm going to just get right to the matter here. We're not going to do any plugs like we have been doing. I'm going to start making the actual update the main focus of these videos going forward. So after a brief introduction here, we'll get right into the update. So before that, I just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. I can't believe that this year is nearly coming to an end. It went by very, very fast. So like I said, we're going to get right into the Magical Audio Tour. And this month, we completed all the needed additions to the Chapter 12, A Timeless Land of Imagination, which is the new Fantasyland from 1983 up till the present Fantasyland. And the other thing is that I never call my chapters completed. It's completed for now, but there can always be new things that I add in the future. But everything that I planned on adding and that I have access to at the current moment has been added to this chapter. So there are no tracks that are unavailable or say coming soon. Everything is in place as of right now. That doesn't mean more won't be added in the future, but as of the recording of this video, everything is available and in place. And I'm going to go through all of the tracks that were added or updated since my last update in October. So let's get right into the website here, and we're going to look at Chapter 12 together. And as I go through the chapter, I'm going to explain to you all the things that are marked new, because those were the things that I have added over the course of October. Anything that is not marked new was already on the chapter, so I'm not going to go into much discussion, if any, of those tracks. We're just going to focus on the ones that are marked new. So the first track, number 5, is a new Fantasyland construction update. And this is a piece of audio that has the Disneyland ambassador at the time that Fantasyland was being reconstructed, giving an interview to one of the foremen on the site and asking questions about the current state of the construction project. And it's very interesting. And I added some music and cleaned up the audio nicely. The 1983 grand reopening ceremony is pretty much exactly what that says. It's the actual May 26, 1983 reopening of the new Fantasyland. It has Ron Miller speaking, and again the current Disneyland ambassador speaks. And it has Maleficent and Prince Philip doing some entertaining for the crowd, and it's all the audio that I have access to. It's not the complete ceremony. It's about 5.5 minutes of it, sort of abridged, but it's a lot of fun. So moving further down, we have two versions of Sleeping Beauty Castle. We have the 1977, often called Barbie doll version. And then we have the current version, which opened in 2007 and is still available in the castle today. So those are, slightly different versions of the same area. And one version has sound effects and the other version is just mostly the music, just to keep things a little bit less redundant. And I've also decided to include some original soundtrack music from the various IPs that are represented throughout New Fantasyland. And the first one, of course, is Sleeping Beauty. So this is sort of a mix of all of the musical highlights and songs from the original soundtrack of Sleeping Beauty that I sort of put together as a 35-minute mix. And I have one of these for each IP that is going to be represented throughout this chapter. So the next thing, I redid the Sleeping Beauty Castle Courtyard, and that's actually the music you're listening to right now. It's just background music with, instrumental versions of classic Disney tunes. The Tinkerbell Toy Shop is the same background music that is used and is still currently being used for the Fantasyland in Tokyo Disneyland's area music. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is a bunch of songs that are sort of Disney classic, like princess stories, instrumentals, and the like. Cinderella 1950 original soundtrack. Again, this is a mix of all the music from Cinderella. This is sort of my little Cinderella section here. Castle Heraldry Shop. I used a background loop that's used for a similar shop in Disneyland Paris. I'm not sure what music was used for Disneyland. It could have been this, so I decided to use it. It sounds appropriate. It's sort of medieval sounding music. The Sword and the Stone Ceremony is actually authentic audio of the real Sword and the Stone Ceremony as it was held daily in Fantasyland. It has Merlin, and he chooses somebody from the audience to pull the sword, and it's got a lot of funny jokes and things. It's a live recording, and I cleaned it up, and it sounds really good. King Arthur Carousel, this was already on the site, but I cleaned it up, and I added extra audio to it. It's a little bit longer than the other version was. And this is the 1983 version of the King Arthur Carousel. King Arthur Carousel Disneyland Band. This is when the Disneyland Band would perform aboard the carousel. This is the music that they would play. It's got the William Tell Overture, and also If You Could See Me Now from Sweet Charity. I decided to include the carousel music from Walt Disney World's version. And I also have the current King Arthur Carousel loop, as you would hear today, which was first being used in 2005 up to the present. Then I have a little bit of carousel music from Mary Poppins to represent the special carousel horse that is dedicated to Julie Andrews, who's known as Jingles. And I have a collection of sort of Dixielandish sounding Disney tunes representing the Pearly Band. And this is sort of my little Mary Poppins section, so I have a mix of the original soundtrack to 1964's Mary Poppins. So far we have 3 soundtracks representing the 3 main IPs I've gone through so far. Fantasyland area background music is the same music as the carousel, but it's an orchestral version that plays in conjunction with the carousel, and that was added a few years later. And it's the first time Fantasyland has actually had an official area loop, and it can still be heard today. The Disney Villain Shop was already on the site, but I decided to add some extra things to it. And I expanded it. I added about 20 minutes of extra content to this track. Now, the original was authentic. It was the actual audio. For the version that's there now, I kept all that authentic part, but then I just sort of used my, artistic license and tried to copy what was done with the other parts of it, and I added some villains that I felt needed to be represented. I don't think what was on there was a complete loop. It was just a portion of it, because there's so many iconic villains that were left out. So I tried to put in the notable things that were missing from the representation of villains. Like, for example, Cruella de Vil was not in the original, and I added a Cruella de Vil segment, etc., etc. Disney Villain Shop, Caged Old Hag, was on the site before, but I decided to put a different version without music, so you can just sort of listen to the actual dialogue, and I also added some sound effects. Now, I have sections here representing each of the major dark rides. So this is the section representing Snow White's Scary Adventures, now known as Snow White's Enchanted Wish, but this more focuses on the 1983 variation, so I'm keeping it as Snow White's Scary Adventures. So the first track is the sounds that you would hear when you touch the brass apple at the entrance to the building. Then I have the audio for the Witch's Dungeon, which is no longer a part of it. So as you can see, I have more stuff from the Scary Adventure incarnation of the attraction. That's why I kept it as that. Now, I redid all of the dark ride-throughs were on the site already, but I redid all of them and made huge improvements in the audio quality, and I really went in and scrubbed them up really nice, and they're just really superior to what was there before. So if you've already heard them, be sure to go back and re-listen, because they've all been completely redone and improved. So I redid Snow White's Scary Adventures ride-through. And then I have for each dark ride what I'm calling the soundscapes. And these are the dialogue and some of the sound effects isolated without any music. So those are the soundscapes. And there's one for each dark ride. So this is the Snow White one. And I've also done the same with the music. I have the music without the dialogue and sound effects. And this is Snow White's Scary Adventures musical score. So this is just the background music from the attraction without any of the sound effects over it. So there's really three versions. There's the full version with sound effects and music. There's just the sound effects, and then there's just the music. And then I also included a version from another park in most cases. This is the audio from the queue area of the Walt Disney World Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And then, of course, I have the soundtrack of the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from 1937. Then I added some pirate music because this pirate band for a short time played in Fantasyland. And then now we're down to our Peter Pan section. And appropriately, the music is following me with Second Star to the Right. Perfect timing. So the queue area background music was already on the site, but I did some cleanup on it. It had a weird echo effect before that I got rid of. So this is a much better version. Some of these were already available. I'm skipping over, like the boarding spiel hasn't changed. I redid the Peter Pan's Flight ride through. Here's the sound effects, the soundscapes, and the musical score, just like with Snow White. And then I have a version from another park. Here is the queue area from Walt Disney World's Peter Pan's Flight. And then here is the original soundtrack of Peter Pan from 1953. And the next section is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I redid the queue area background music to be more authentic. I had sort of a mix of Disney World and Disneyland, but this is the real audio that you would hear in the queue area at Disneyland, 1983 up to the present. And here is the ride through of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, the soundscapes, and I don't have a ride through musical score for Mr. Toad because there really isn't. Most of the music you hear in the queue area, there's not really much unique music that isn't part of the queue area that just repeats itself inside the actual ride. So I did not include a musical score for Mr. Toad. That's the one exception. But I do have two things from other parks. I have the Walt Disney World queue area, which I said before was mixed in with the Disneyland queue area. Now I have it separated and properly labeled as Walt Disney World. And I also have the area music from the Toad Hall restaurant in Disneyland Paris. And I have the actual original soundtrack, believe it or not, from The Wind in the Willows, something that's never been commercially released. I have a version of all the background audio without dialogue over it, and it's it's a Disney Chris exclusive, so you might want to check that one out. And then here is our Pinocchio's Daring Journey segment. I redid the queue area music to be cleaner and more authentic and complete. I redid the ride through, much cleaner, huge improvement. Soundscapes are all the dialogue and everything, and for this I do have the musical score. And then for my other park, I have the musical score from Tokyo Disneyland. And then I have the 1940 original soundtrack again. So you can see there's a pattern here with these dark rides. Now, I have a track to represent Geppetto's arts and crafts. I completely redid the Pinocchio Village House area music. This is the full loop. It's probably the cleanest version that you'll find. There's other versions like on YouTube, which are really poor audio quality. This is a really good quality, all from source materials. And my other track had like 3 songs, and it was like 10 minutes. This is the full hour plus loop. Then I have the music that was used during the time when they had a Tangled meet and greet. And then just for fun, I added in the area music for the Tangled restrooms at Walt Disney World. And then I have the music they used for the when they had the Frozen meet and greet. And then I have the music from the new Red Rose Tavern, which replaced, and as you can see from the sign, it is spelt with an E. That is not a typo. That is the Old English way of spelling it, so that's intentional. And that's the way they spell it. So, this is actually the music used. It's all Beauty and the Beast songs, kind of like medieval sounding Beauty and the Beast songs. And this is the authentic music. This replaced the Village House. And I have a whole section here for Dumbo. So I have the Dumbo Flying Elephants, which is Fantasyland band organ music. And I myself am performing as the attraction host, and I'm like, welcome aboard, and I give safety instructions, and you can hear the sound of the mechanisms from the elephants and everything, like the hydraulics and all that stuff you can hear. And then I have just the band organ by itself without any of my interruptions or no sound effects. And then I have the area music from Disneyland Paris. And I have, I don't have the full loop, but I have 2 tracks from Storybook Circus in Walt Disney World. And then, of course, again, I have the 1941 original soundtrack to Dumbo. So then I redid Casey Jr. Circus Train. This is the current version, which has been in operation since 1983. And then I decided to include the area music for Storybook Land in Paris. And then I have the current day version. This is just sort of an update to the version that has already been on the site, where I am performing as the narrator, as the tour guide. And I added in Frozen, because they've added the Frozen segment. So it's basically the exact same thing, just with a Frozen segment added in. So, wow, this music is really lining up perfectly with what I'm talking about, because now we're talking about Alice in Wonderland. I did not plan this. It's just turning out this way. So this is my Alice in Wonderland section. Now, if you don't know, Alice in Wonderland opened 1 year later. The new version didn't open until 84. So the rest of the new Fantasyland opened in 83, and Alice in Wonderland opened 1 year later. So I have the grand opening ceremony for the 84 reopening. And then I redid the queue area music. Before, I had the complete, not authentic. It was more of indoor attraction music. This is the real outdoor queue area loop, which is mostly music from the original soundtrack with the vocals extracted. Then I completely redid the attraction. This is the 1983 version. Before, I had like a hybrid of the 83 and 58 version. Now I have them separated. The 58 version is on the other Fantasyland page, and this is the 83 version, so they're not mixed together anymore. They're more authentic. This is more authentic to what it really is. And then I have the soundscapes and the musical score again, and then I have the original soundtrack to Alice in Wonderland. So then I sort of extended and added upon my area background music for the Fantasyland Skyway Chalet. And then I added in these two tracks, which I already did have on my Showtime chapter, where I have a full Afternoon Avenue section. But I decided to add the two attractions that were part of Afternoon Avenue over here on Fantasyland. And Chippendale's Rescue Rangers is no changes, but I did go through and clean it up a little. Took out a few little glitches that I heard when I ran through it. Motorboat Cruise I completely redid, added new motorboat sounds. I didn't like the sound of the motorboat in the other version, so I sort of copied what I had already done, but replaced the motor sound. Fantasyland safety announcements are just all sorts of different safety announcements for various Fantasyland attractions. I have some Matterhorn yodeling music, and then here is our Matterhorn section. I have an introduction by Jack Wagner. I completely redid the cue music. This is authentic, and it's the real cue music. Pristine audio quality. Matterhorn safety announcements is just cleaner, and I crisped this up a little bit. Matterhorn bobsleds I actually didn't need to change. I was happy with what I had been using, and I was thinking about redoing it. I had it on my list to redo it, but then when I listened to it, I was like, I don't need to do this. This is fine. I'm happy with it the way it is, so I didn't change it. Matterhorn bobsleds, this is a brief little portion of sound effects from the current iteration with the new Abominable Snowman. It sounds different than the old version, so just a few seconds of sound effects from the newer version. This section was mostly completed, but I added one thing, and this is something that I've been putting off for years. I've had this as coming soon for years, and it's actually on 3 chapters. There are 3 versions of the Royal Theatre Show, And for a short time, they replaced the Tangled show with a Frozen show, which they have since brought back Tangled and gotten rid of Frozen. But I have the audio here for when they did have the Frozen show, and I cleaned it up. It's from a live recording, and the thing is, Beauty and the Beast and Tangled took me days of really intensive cleanup. This one wasn't so difficult, but I was anticipating that it was going to be as difficult as the other two. But this one I was able to do in a few hours. And I've been putting it off forever, dreading doing it, but I finally got it done. And because I finished this is also on Chapter 4, Central Plaza, and it was the one track I had not completed. So that chapter has never been fully completed until now. Now that I finally got this track done, Central Plaza is done. You'll also find this on the Disneyland Showtime page. So, got that out of the way, thank goodness. Videopolis Station, this is just Jack Wagner's, station announcements with the sound of the train coming into the station. Fantasia Gardens is Dance of the Hours from Fantasia. Meet Merida is the music that you would hear when they had the limited time meet and greet on the Small World Mall, where you could meet Merida from the movie Brave. I included that. It's a Small World is this is the same version as on Chapter 11, the original Fantasyland, because this is, it was the same version after the 83 remodel, so I decided just to keep it as is for both chapters and just have it on both chapters. Then I have a little medley of the different versions of music that they added when they put in the Disney characters in 2008. And then I have the music that you hear as you go through the America scene. And I just want to mention a friend of mine. I have him listed down here. His name is Luke. And he actually transcribed a live recording and performed the guitar himself. And so this is actually his performance reenacting the America scene. And I have a link to his YouTube channel down here, so I just wanted you to know about that. So this is not authentic, this is Luke's replication of the audio from the scene. Then I have some music box music for Small World Toy Shop, and this was a doozy. This is the full audio of the complete Disneyland Paris version of It's a Small World, beginning to end, every scene, every piece of music, over an hour long of the John Debney Disneyland Paris. And for those who don't know, for a brief period, for a few years in the 90s, they used this version in California also, before they brought back the original. Now this is nearly 2.5 hour track of all different cover versions of It's a Small World, spanning from the 60s up to the present, just all mixed together. So if you're a fan of that song, as I am, you will enjoy this. It's all different versions of it. And then closing out the chapter, I have this musical tribute to Fantasyland, which are the original soundtrack versions of all the songs that sort of represent Fantasyland. It's got, You Can Fly, Hi Ho, Casey Jr., etc., etc., all mixed together in an hour and a half, nearly hour and a half mix. So that is all the tracks I have added to the new Fantasyland. And that is our update for November 2021. Now, the next chapter that I'm going to start working on in a couple days now is going to be Bear Country, which is also Critter Country. Bear/Critter Country. So, hopefully, at the beginning of December, I'll be able to give you a report on all of the new additions I have made to that chapter. So the last thing I just want to mention before we go is, again, thank you for your continued support. And I hope, again, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I will see you all at the beginning of December. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.